It's January here at Speech and Language Kids, and we're doing a caseload makeover. We are helping you streamline and simplify and slim down your caseload this winter. And in order to make the most of this, I'm also doing a caseload takeover, where I am taking over another SLP's caseload and doing this as well. So today, I'm going to tell you how it's going. If you are new to me, I am Carrie Clark, speech language pathologist and the creator of the SLK Curriculum, which is a structured program for teaching communication skills to children and teens. So this month, inside our curriculum, we are doing this caseload makeover. And this is an idea I got from a couple years back when I was working with one of my friends who has a practice here in town, and she needed help with a rural school district that was getting hadn't had a speech language pathologist in quite some time. They had had some implementers and other, kind of stop gaps. But we were basically going in, and our job was to clean up the caseload, to figure out who still needed to be on IEPs, who was ready to be dismissed, which kids needed different therapy goals or plans, which IEPs were out of date. And the whole process was super fun for me because I love problem solving. I love solving puzzles. And so that's what it felt like to me. But by the end of this, I think we did it for one school year. By the end of the school year, the kids that were on the IEPs and on our caseloads were making amazing progress. We had beautiful IEPs and goals written out for everyone, and we were ready to hand it off to the next SLP. So I wanted to kind of embody this same spirit with our caseload makeover of helping you look at your caseload with fresh eyes, see where there are some inefficiencies that we could remove and where we could improve systems, where we could put things in place that will allow your clients to make faster progress, but without extra time from you. And in fact, with saving time for you, because you are all doing so much and you're so overworked. And we really want to find ways to get more done in less time. So this month, we're doing the caseload makeover. I also have 3 amazing women who have signed up for my private coaching for the caseload makeover. So they're going to be working closely with me so that I can help them identify where they can improve their systems and processes, get faster dismissals with less planning and prep. And then in addition to that, I'm doing my own caseload makeover with my caseload takeover. So that same friend that I had been helping before called me up last month or the month before and said, "Hey, Carrie, I need help again." And so she has contracts. Her private practice has contracts with a lot of the rural school districts around us. And one of her SLPs had to leave unexpectedly. And so she had a gap to fill. And so normally I am not seeing a full caseload of my own. I am working full-time on the business of running the curriculum, developing the curriculum, creating resources and trainings and tools. And so she asked if I was able to just for one day a week step in and see some of these kids just to make sure everybody had their minutes met until they can get somebody full-time. So that's what I'm doing. So it was not a hostile takeover. I'm not stealing anyone's caseload, but it does give me this really unique opportunity to test out the new therapy goal packets that I just created inside the curriculum. And so I took all of our resources and materials that we have in the curriculum, hundreds of materials, hundreds of resources, and I have prepackaged them into these pathways. And so if you are working with a child on vocabulary and they're working on this specific type of vocabulary, now there is a packet for that goal that includes everything you need to treat that one area of vocabulary. Okay, so I had just put all these goal packets together and got them finished right before Christmas break. And now I'm starting with this new school. And so I have this really cool opportunity to say, okay, let's test out these goal packets in the real world, fine tune exactly how I want them. And I already have some ideas of how I can make them even better. And that's how I'm also going through this. So this is, I started yesterday at this new school. So I want to tell you how it's going, what I've already realized. And then I'm going to be taking my insights from my takeover I'm going to be combining that with the insights from coaching these 3 amazing women who are doing the private coaching with me. And then all of that information, all the stuff that we learn and figure out is going to trickle down to all of you in the form of podcasts. We'll give you some updates. We'll also be doing sending out emails if you're on my email list. And then those of you who are actually subscribed to the curriculum will be getting specific links and information on how to use the goal packets, how to use the tools and resources inside the curriculum to do this caseload makeover on your own. So very excited about this. I hope you are too. But let's see. I have a lot of notes and I've already deviated from them because that's how I do when I'm doing my podcasts. Okay, so yesterday was my first day. I dropped my kids off at school like normal and then drive out to this other school district, which is in a completely different town. And I came in and met all of these kids for the first time. So I did a quick tour of the building. I had a map of the classroom numbers and just where all these kids would be at these particular times. It was chaotic, but also amazing because I had so much fun kind of getting to know these kids, figuring out what they were working on. Because as all of you know, looking at a list of goals on paper is much different than having a conversation with that same child. I also, we had some scheduling snafus where scheduling didn't work out, or there was an unexpected assembly in the morning for all of the boys in the school because apparently they had been having some trouble using the bathrooms. And so they had here's proper hygiene and etiquette for boys' bathrooms assembly. So we had to work around that. But as any of you working in the schools are very familiar with all of those types of challenges. But yeah, so I got to meet all of these kids. They were all doing so well, lots of amazing progress. Some of these kids were actually had met most of their goals. So obviously very, very good things happening here. So my goal here was not to step in and say, oh my gosh, this person didn't do their job or wasn't doing it well. Absolutely not. Quite the opposite. This caseload was well managed. However, I had the unique perspective of coming in with fresh eyes to see these children who I had never met before, to be able to look at their goals, but also look at them and say, okay, where are we still maybe needing some support? Where have we moved past some of these goals that were written before? So my challenge now is number one, how do I step in and pick up where someone left off in as little time as possible, right? I need to get up and running quickly. I did do an entire data day yesterday, so that was, I would have them come in and I said, hey, I'm your new speech teacher. I just need to figure out how you're doing with your skills. So we're just going to run through some words, run through some practice. For some of the students, I would run them through a few words, and then I would just either have a conversation or I would have them converse with each other, like playing a game. And I was sitting there taking notes and taking data on, okay, yes, these are our goals, but what is it that's really impacting their communication in real world conversations? Because obviously sometimes that looks different than, okay, well, yeah, you can do that TH sound. You've been working on it in your therapy and you're doing really well with it. But I wanted to step back and say, okay, but are they carrying this over at all? Are there other skills that are impacting them as well? Okay, so I realized very quickly that this was an amazing way for me to run a real life run of the Caseload Makeover, because I could do it for myself. And then, so I started this week. And so I'm going to show you or talk about some of the things that I'm doing right now to get going on the makeover. And then next week, my 3 coaching clients will start. And so we're going to run through that with them. And I have some really cool activities to run with them. I'm excited about that. And then that following week will be when we start to trickle down to all the rest of you, all of the things that we've learned, all of the strategies that we found have worked well, or things that we are working on. So that will start, let me look at a calendar. January 19th should be when we are able to start trickling some of that stuff out to you guys. So we'll be giving you updates. I'll be giving you updates on how my thing is going, how it's working with my coaching clients, the things we've learned, all of that. And by the end, we are going to have such an amazing system that all of you can follow to clean up your caseloads as well. Okay, so my insights so far. I very quickly realized the first thing I need is therapy materials. So there are definitely materials in this therapy room. There's games, there's flashcards, there's, all kinds of materials that I could pull from. But what I wanted to try and what I think is the most helpful for me and the way my brain works is I just wanted to print out the goal packets. Like I said, I've created these goal packets that target specific goals. And inside the goal packet is the sample goal. Oh, my phone is ringing. Sorry. It's the sample goals. It's also the information or the text for the present level. If you're doing IEPs, that it's, how they're doing right now, how it impacts them. And then it has all of the materials you need to treat that goal, to teach the skills that go into that overall goal. Okay, so I started looking at the kids on the caseload. I started looking at the goal packets we already had. And I said, okay, can I do this? Can I match the current goals that I didn't write to the packets that I've already created? And funny enough, they worked out really well. So I found some really great packets that I think will support the goals that they are working on. I did that day to day, and I went through and figured out which ones, because a lot of the kids had already met some of the goals that were on their IEPs. So I don't even need to print the goal packets for that. But I went through, did the day to day, and I looked for, okay, which skills do they really need to work on? Which ones do I want to focus on? And do I have a goal packet to match that? And so I had a couple of realizations as I was doing this. One of them is I need a better way to probe data. So I am going to be adding data probes to each and every one of these goal packets over the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. We'll see how long that takes me to build. But I think probes will be great, where we can just say, okay, here's the probe, run them through this thing, and then take your data, and then you'll know how they're doing on that goal. So I think that's going to be huge. I also realized, so the first iteration of my packets, I had objectives, right? So I said, okay, the goal is word learning and word attack strategies. Okay, so this is the vocabulary curriculum. The advanced goal is being able to tackle an unknown word. How do you look at the prefixes and suffixes? How do you use the context clues? All of the different things we do to figure out a new word and learn it. So let's say that's the goal. Then I had all these objectives that were like, okay, let's talk about antonyms and synonyms. Let's talk about multiple meaning words. Let's talk about prefixes and suffixes and root words. So all of those were different objectives. And what I realized, and I also realized this from talking to one of our subscribers inside the subscription after she was confused, is really those aren't necessarily objectives that you need to track. Those are the activities that you're doing to teach that larger skill of word attack strategies, right? So I'm reworking the packets slightly to where you're not going through and selecting specific objectives. You're selecting the goal, and then you just print out all the activities, which I was calling objectives, but they're really just activities. You print out all the activities, and you just have that packet in the child's folder. And then you just go through and teach those activities. And if you get to one and you're like, oh, wow, you're really good at this, cool, just skip to the next one, right? So instead of having to take extra time to pick the objectives you think are best and only print those out, we're just printing the whole packets because that's so much easier, and then running them through those activities. And then the way my system works is I recommend that once a month, you take the data on that overall goal. So for example, the goal for the vocabulary and the word attack strategies is when given an unknown word that they will use at least 2 different strategies to guess at the meaning of the word and explain it. Okay, so I'll make a data probe for that, right? So I'll have some words and, some tools on how to collect data on how they're doing. So once a month, you do that. You actually probe them and have them try. And then all the other days of the month, when you're not doing that data probe, you are doing these therapy activities. So you're working on antonyms and synonyms. You're working on multiple meaning words. You're working on prefixes and suffixes. And you can collect some data on how they're doing, but then once a month, you go back to the data probe and see how they're doing on the larger goal. And once they've met that larger goal, you say, aha, we've done it. You put that goal packet away. You get out the goal packet for the next goal they're working on. So that's the idea of how this is going to work. And again, I'm still figuring out the best ways to do this. I'm figuring out what works in real time with me, with my coaching clients, and then also with our subscribers. And so we will be tweaking this as we go along. But that's one of the things I want to really focus on is getting the data probes in there and then having just the whole packet that you can print at once. I also realized that our speech sounds really need to be separate kits. I had them all kind of packed together, like here's all the early developing sounds, here's the mid developing. And the kids that I have on this particular caseload are not working on more than one sound. If they're working on Arctic, they're working on R or S or Z or TH. And so I'm going to pull those out and have them separately so they're easier to print. So those were some of my insights so far. But I wanted to, let's see what time it is. Oh, good. I wanted to just talk through a couple of the kiddos that I worked with yesterday and just kind of what some of the packets are that I'm going to be pulling for them. I'm not going to give you any names or any identifying information. So, this is just kind of to give you an idea of the types of things that I'm doing as I'm going through this. So I wrote down all of the kids and I picked one particular skill that I want to start with. For some of them, it's the only skill they have left on their IEP. For others, they had more than one, but this was the one that maybe was the furthest behind or that I felt like was impacting them the most. So we had a lot of R's. This is, I have 3rd through 5th grade, so lots of R's on there, a couple of lispy ones. So we had some S's and Z's. We had one TH. So those, again, super easy. I'm just going to grab the packet for that particular sound and throw those in their folders. And then we'll just work on those packets when they come to speech. I had one social kid. So he's working on social skills. And so for that one, I'm going to pull out the, I was going to actually pull them up so I can read them to you. I'm going to pull out the conversational skills goal packet. And I believe I had decided he was at the beginner level. So each of our each of our curriculums has 3 goals: a beginner goal, an intermediate goal, and an advanced goal. And these span from early intervention all the way up through high school, depending on what the kid is working on and the specific skills. So for conversational skills for that curriculum, there's 3 goals. The beginner goal is initiating and responding. So that's, initiating, answering questions, just responding back when someone talks to you. He's got that. He's golden there. The intermediate level of conversational skills is maintaining those conversations and topic management. So this is turn taking and continuing and maintaining the conversation by responding and asking a question and making a comment. So that's where his goals are. So I'm going to grab that goal packet. The next level up from that is navigating complex conversations, such as repairing communication breakdowns, navigating disagreements, or self-advocating. He's not really ready for that yet. So for him, that intermediate goal is perfect. So I'm just going to grab that packet, and that's going to have activities for us to go through that are going to work on all of those different skills. So I loved that match for him. Okay, I had a couple of kids working on narratives, story grammar kind of things, and we have a literacy curriculum. Let me find that one and pull that up. So our literacy curriculum is the language foundations of literacy. So we're specifically looking at what language skills tie into literacy. And so the intermediate goal is understanding and using discourse structures. So we start off with understanding and telling narratives, but then we also go into providing information and stating opinions. So I think that goal packet is going to be beautiful for those kids who are working on those narrative goals. We'll start with the narrative section, and then if we need to, repeat that one, we can, or we can move on to some of the other discourse structures. All right. Oh, I also had a couple of kids that they had several different types of language goals. So they're working on grammar and vocabulary and following directions. And so they had multiple areas of language to hit. And so for those clients, I am actually choosing the core language program. So that is a 16-week lesson, like a workbook, 16-week workbook, I guess, that I created to explicitly teach every language skill in one grade level over the course of those 16 lessons. And so it's kind of a cycles approach to language where you're working on all of the different language skills, but you kind of rotate through them and you come back to them. And so that one, every lesson will include all of these different parts of language. And so I'm actually just going to run those kids through that core language program and give them those lessons so that we can work on a lot of language skills at once instead of honing in on one particular piece of grammar. The kids that I'm choosing that for are really doing pretty well. They're just a little bit delayed in some of those language skills, or maybe a couple of them are still mixed up. And so I think that's really going to be the boost that they need to get back on grade level for language. Okay. I had one kid that I'm going to use the cluttering program for. So that's teaching them how to use slow, deliberate speech. I think that one's going to be really great. And then another couple for figurative language. We've got a figurative language goal packet. So those are the ones that I've picked for these friends. And I think that this is going to be really cool. I'm really excited about how well the goal packets that I created matched up with goals that I didn't write, because that's always a challenge, is everyone writes their goals differently and everyone inherits goals that they didn't write. And so trying to figure out, have we hit all the different areas that we need to? And for this example set, we did. Everything matched up nicely. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes as we roll this out to our coaching clients and as we roll it out to our general subscribers. I know there's going to be some areas that will say, oh man, we still need to work on adding some of these. Executive functioning is coming. We're going to add goal packets for executive functioning, but do not have them yet. But that's a big area that I want to push. But yeah, so I'm super excited. And I would love for you guys to be a part of this as well. So you can definitely keep listening to the podcast, subscribe on your favorite platform. I will be updating you as I go through this process and teaching you what I learn. But the goal packets are available right now. So if you would like to just jump in and grab a goal packet for one of your clients or for your own child, you can definitely do that. So go over to hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. Once you subscribe, the very first page you hit is going to have you choose an area, speech, language, fluency, etc. You're going to go in. You can see all the goals that we cover, all of the different areas, and you just pick the goal and download the goal packet, and you're ready to go. So like I said, I will be adding the data probes soon, so those are not in there yet, but stay tuned. I'll let you know when those are, and you can grab those. But yeah, I'm super excited. I hope that you guys can join me for this, or at least join us on the podcast and get the updates. And if you have any questions, you can email me at carrie@speechandlanguagekids.com, and I'm happy to help you with your own caseload makeover. All right, bye for now, and see you next time on the podcast.